India is perhaps it's the only country of its kind where news and current affairs programs on radio is still a monopoly of the government.
The debate around allowing news and current affairs on private FM radio is a long and contentious one. The centre owned All India Radio's monopoly over radio news broadcasts dates back to over 7 decades, since its inception in 1936. The first news bulletin was broadcast from AIR the same year. In 1995, a historic judgment by the Supreme Court of India ruled that airwaves are public property and must be used for public good. 4 years later, radio broadcasting was thrown open to the private sector. Since then, private FM radio has undergone two phases of expansion. But news and current affair programs on private FM channels are still not allowed.
All India Radio has this unfair monopoly, I would say, as far as broadcasted news and current affairs is concerned. There is no logical reason. There's no why to it. It's a free speech issue, right? You allow news on television, you allow news on newspapers, mobile, internet, but not allowing news on radio then doesn't make sense at all.
Phase 3 of FM radio expansion has been held up for the past 3 years. Under the policy guidelines, the previous UPA government allowed private FM stations to carry news bulletins with one catch. They had to be bulletins that All India Radio had already aired. In October 2013, Common Cause, an NGO, filed a public interest litigation in the Supreme Court seeking to allow news and current affair programs on FM and community radio stations. The new Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar initially made noises about letting FM channels air their own news bulletins. Private FM players were left disappointed when he backtracked, saying they could carry AIR news bulletins in exactly the same format.
Currently, the way it stands, if independent news has to be allowed, it means that it has to go back to the cabinet for approval, which means that it will delay the phase 3 process. So that could be one of the reasons why we're still going ahead with news from All India Radio and not really independent news.
In the third phase of FM expansion, 839 channels will be set up across 294 cities. The centre is apprehensive of allowing news on private FM as it says it will be tough for it to monitor content across such a huge number of stations.
I find the argument of the government ridiculous in the extreme. If there are hundreds of privately owned television channels that are not only broadcasting from India, that are broadcasting from different parts of the world, they've got permission from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting to either uplink or downlink. If they can produce news and current affairs programs and the government is controlling them, it has a electronic media monitoring outfit where they can monitor all these television channels, I really find it ridiculous that such an argument should be used.
A petition on this issue is currently pending before the Supreme Court. Private FM players are now keenly waiting for the Information and Broadcasting Minister to lift restrictions on news broadcasts.